Hello, my name is Bruce Zawalsky. I'm author of Canadian Wilderness Survival and chief instructor at the Boreal Wilderness Institute. And today I want to talk about Morris L. Kochanski's Survival in a Nutshell. If you'd like to learn real survival knowledge, then please support me by following me on YouTube and liking this video. So what I want to talk about is a little bit of wisdom that's 48 years old. So that makes it a fairly old bit of wisdom, since I'm a graybeard now, and I would have been in elementary school when Morris Kochanski actually wrote this. And it's called Survival in a Nutshell. It was one of the very first things Morris gave me. And I found it this week, looking for some completely different stuff in just a bit of serendipity, in an old folder that was my original folder of survival handouts. And after a sequence of first aid treatment, there's the Survival in a Nutshell. So I looked at it, and I go, well, I remember all this stuff. And as a matter of fact, one of the reasons I want to bring it up is often I'm told by people, this is what Morse said, and this is what Morse said. And a lot of it's just taken totally out of context. And of course, I didn't remember that from university. I remember Morse being an energetic, logical, scientific lecturer who would then go out into the field and teach you fantastic information if you wanted to learn. And you could just eat it up. And Survival in a Nutshell was it. I mean, this was his 8 steps. He wrote on the 18th of December, 1973. So essentially, 48 years ago, and a couple of days. And I'm going to read it to you. And I want to talk about a few of them at the end, some of those important points. But I just want to read it top to bottom. So there's no ifs, ands, or buts. And hopefully I'll find a place to post this or something so you can see it, so you make sure I'm not making this stuff up. So Survival in a Nutshell, Morris Kochanski, 18 December 1973. 1. The bush is neutral, neither for or against you. What happens to you in the bush depends entirely upon yourself. Number 2. When you become lost, one of your first concerns is to maintain your body warmth. In the winter, this may mean lighting a fire immediately. It is far more sensible to light a fire to keep warm rather than lighting one to thaw out. Number 3, after fire, shelter is the next most important consideration. Shelter should provide a dry and comfortable place to work, rest, and sleep in. It should break the force of the wind and deflect the rain. It should intercept the heat of your fire so that less fuel is required for maximum effort. Number 4, there should not be any immediate worry about food, as you should be able to last for a few weeks easily without any food at all. When food is lacking, drink far more water than you normally do. Better yet, drink the water as hot as possible. Number 5, be on guard against hypothermia. It does not have to be very cold to lower the body temperature to a dangerous level. 6, the less you know, the more you have to carry. The more you know, the less you have to carry. When entering the wilderness, always carry matches, knife, and a compass. Just carrying these is not enough. You must know how to use these elementary survival tools. Number 7, take your time in everything you do. Rest often. Do not engage in any senseless or useless activity. Use your head before you use your feet. Number 8, remember that there are some very predictable things that will happen to your mind and body as a result of you becoming lost. It takes at least 3 days for these things to settle down. It may be a good idea to just relax and stay in place for the first 3 days, and then your mind and your body will be fully prepared for surviving. So there is Survival in a Nutshell. And Survival in a Nutshell was 8 basic steps. Talking about things that we hear all the time in Morse quotes, that the bush is neutral. And, more importantly, the more you know, the less you have to carry. Certainly Morse's greatest quote, but taken out of context all the time. So Morse didn't spend a lot of time walking around naked in the woods. And there it was in number 6, when entering the wilderness, always carry matches, knife, and a compass. So one of the things we should think about is, look at those 8 things. The bush is neutral. All right, okay, so we understand that. It's us. We have to survive. It's far more sensible to light a fire to keep warm rather than lighting one to thaw out. In other words, be proactive. gather the materials, get the fire going. After fire, then it's shelter. So if we had less time, well, we just build a fire. There should not be an immediate worry about food. Like, it's a survival situation. As the statistics dictate, and it wasn't going to be any different in 1973 when he wrote it. 99% of all survival situations are done in 4 days, right? That's the deal. And Morse said it there. Drink water. Don't worry about food. Be on guard against hypothermia. Hypothermia kills people every year, and he says that as number 5. And then the one, of course, that gets taken, as I said, gets taken out of context. Notice how it starts, though. The less you know, the more you have to carry. In other words, if I have less skill, I carry more. Now, of course, how does this work? It goes by ecozone or region. Because if I know a lot about the boreal forest, I can carry less. If I don't know anything about a jungle, I have to carry more. If I go out to the desert, I have less knowledge of desert survival than I have of boreal survival or montane survival, so I have to carry more. The more you know, the less you carry. Absolutely. But nowhere does he say, don't carry anything, or wander naked in the woods, or just go out with a survival knife and you can find everything in the woods because nature will provide. Because, of course, number 1 was, nature won't provide. The bush is neutral. It's neither for nor against you. So you got to read this stuff in order. He said right off the bat, the bush is neutral. It is neither for nor against you. What happens to you in the bush depends entirely upon yourself. You have to have that. You have to understand. You have to know. And then when entering the wilderness, always carry matches, knife, and a compass. And, by the way, just carrying these ain't enough. You must know how to use these elementary survival tools. So there's no use going into the wilderness without knowing how to use a compass, without properly using a knife, and much more importantly, always knowing how to light matches properly. Now, I got a few videos on that if you want to look at that. I know people take this for granted, but Morse didn't. And he said that right in number 6. And then take your time in everything you do. Rest. Don't be in a panic. And remember, there's going to be some very predictable things that will happen to you as a result of you becoming lost. One of them is going to be a drop in energy for the first few days as you go from an environment where you're eating to an environment when you're fasting. One of them is just going to be the panic that's going to set in, and then over a few days, that's going to diminish down. And that's why we want to stay in place. One thing that'll probably happen to you in those first few days is you'll get rescued 99% of the time, but that's how life works. So that is survival in a nutshell. And I think this is some of the greatest bit of writing that Morris L. Kochanski ever did. Notice he did it 48 years ago. So I think 15 years before I became a student, or 10 years before I became a student, something like that. And it was there originally in our handouts, ready to go. And he said, hey, this is the logic you have to learn. Learn survival in a nutshell. Learn that the bush is neutral. Learn to start a fire. Learn you don't need food right off the bat. Learn, guard against hypothermia. Build a good shelter. And when entering the wilderness, always carry matches, knife, and a compass. So thank you very much. I hope you learned something by this little trip back in time for some of the knowledge of Morris L. Kochanski. If you like this useful, life-saving survival knowledge you learn on this channel, then please support me by following me on YouTube, listening and liking to other videos on this channel, and by following me on the Boreal Wilderness Institute on Facebook. Thank you, stay safe, and then remember, if you're stranded in the wilderness, just stop and survive.